Welcome to the Tech Log, your weekly log entry at the intersection of technology and business. Short episodes, real conversations. Let's get underway. Tony Fadell, the co-creator of some of the best products on the earth right now, he was co-creator of iPhone, the first 3 generations of iPod. He's the brain behind the Nest. He was on Lenny's podcast this week, and it was so good. It was probably one of the best Lenny's podcast episodes they've ever had. But it reminded me of a conversation you and I have been having probably for a good year now, is taste, and how taste is intertwined and can control what's happening in the AI landscape. And then, of course, outside of that as well, with just technology solutions and then life. We both love fashion, architecture, art, and how all of these things are, intertwined and play a part in each other. So today I want to talk a little bit more about taste and how it relates not only to our wonderfully curated sweater collections or the art on our walls, but to technology solutions, software building, software development, web development, and business as well. If you look up taste in the dictionary right now, I think you get 6 definitions, but the one that applies today is preference, an inclination, a critical judgment, discernment, or appreciation. And there's a lot of cultural definitions to taste as well. Lisa, when you look at the tech landscape today, and everyone has all sorts of tools, but maybe not as much discernment, what does taste mean to you right now? If you had to define taste in this environment, how would you define it?
I've been thinking about this a lot recently because taste has become the new trend, which is fascinating to me because taste is antithetical to trend in its very nature, by its very nature. True taste should insulate you from being influenced by trends. And so now that taste has become the trend, does that mean that eventually trends will go away because everybody will all of a sudden develop taste because it became trendy, and then we won't be so easy to influence going forward? I don't know. But what does it mean to me? I think overall taste to me is your own personal judgment or refinement of your preferences of what you like or what you don't like, how you do things. When it comes to technology, I would say there's this curatorial taste, which as consultants, I think we've practiced that for the entire time we've been in business, right? We have our preferred stack of tools, we have our preferred ways of doing things. There are certain products that, we wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. There are a lot of companies that are using solutions that, we've come in and said, hey, we can configure these things for you, or we can recommend replacements to do certain things. When it comes to AI, I think it's a little bit trickier, because I think there's this concept of using AI to refine your taste. You now have access to ask questions and see things and produce things, and does that help you refine your taste over time? I'm also questioning a lot of the time, are you able to refine your taste that way, or are you just being influenced by AI to be exposed to certain things, certain quality of things, and then your taste is getting a little bit diluted down over time? So
In that podcast, Fidel was talking about, I think the term he used was benevolent dictatorship. And I think you were just on that train of thought of, it is your personal preference. It is your desire to use certain tools over others, right? That gut instinct of where to take something. And he discusses in that podcast quite a bit about one piece, micromanaging. And if you micromanage, you have a vision. You may not be micromanaging how something gets done, but you have a distinct vision of what that end product is going to look like. So that could apply to software or a tech stack or even a website, right? You have a distinct vision of how it looks. And that taste plays a huge part of that, because that's not particularly a data-driven point. that's an opinion based end result. And you have that type of gut feeling and you're building towards that, or trying to get a team to build towards that. That's a little bit more difficult than just building towards a metric. And of course, with AI, it doesn't have that gut feeling, and it is regenerating what already exists in the world. It might even refine out what was your unique opinion and bring you back to the baseline of where everyone else already is. Right? You think of a product like iPhone or iPod or Nest, something that was so unique. The iPhone in particular took off the keyboard. And he talks about how difficult that was to even convince their internal team. But Steve Jobs ultimately had a gut feeling that that's where that had to go. And then that was the end of discussion. And that was his taste preference. He knew that that was where things were headed. And he had to make a dictatorship type, decision. And so that got me thinking a lot, right, of the creativity that needs to be in tech solutions, whether we're building something for an insurance company like a workflow or building software. And if AI allows us to build things instantly, and I'm using us as a general term, like a cultural term here, are we relying too much on data and algorithms to tell us what people want or what is good design? Are we losing our willingness to be a bit undemocratic in our design?
It's hard for me to answer that because I'm not doing that. I think my taste is refined enough that I'm not out there. I'm not out there on the internet looking for a whole bunch of tools to try out right now. I've been focused mainly on building and testing and using what we've been building internally. So my answer to this is going to be somewhat biased. Do I think that's happening? Probably. Um, do I think that that is all that's happening, or do I think do I think that that's an inevitable truth that um, that taste is going to get refined out of the process? Over the long term, I would like to think that's not the case. I guess it depends. I think it depends who are the end user audiences of the technology that's being built today. So I read a statistic, and I did not fact check this, so I don't know if it's true, but I read a statistic, I don't know, at some point in the last 7 days or so, that agentic traffic, there was more agentic traffic on the internet than human traffic on the internet.
Yeah.
So, what does that mean for taste and technology? I don't. Whose taste are we trying to cater to? Because if agentic traffic is going to be taking over the majority of what's on the internet, then maybe human taste becomes the minority and it doesn't matter, except for in the tools that are being built for humans. And so, looking into the future of what kinds of technology products are humans engaging with and what are they engaging with it for, if we continue having this conversation within that context, right? Because that's, I think, what we're talking about is we're developing a solution that's meant for a human end user to either be looking at or engaging with, then I would say you still need to prioritize user testing, alpha testing, beta testing, all these things, and not just task out all the testing to AI. AI has made it very easy to automate a lot of testing, which I think is great. I think a lot of testing is happening all of a sudden that wasn't happening before. That people were saying it was happening, but it wasn't really happening.
Yeah.
So now you can go through automated tests, which is nice. So if you can get humans to agree, like, yes, this is the workflow for this, we like this should never change now until we say it should, then you can automate that. And then you don't have to keep having humans test the same thing over and over. However, I think there is always going to be this sweet spot in the process of bringing a product online to say, okay, we have to get humans involved and we have to get the right humans involved, because you don't just have to have a person with a vision to develop the product, but when we're talking about something where people are going to have to interact with it, I mean, you do want to get some feedback, and you want to get feedback from the right people. You want people to understand the vision, and you want people to interact with the tool. The more users you have interacting with a tool over time, I would say, like, the taste and the quality of that thing are going to go down over time anyway. I mean, look at Facebook. Facebook was super fun to use in the beginning. when it was limited access, limited. I mean, look, if you look at the definitions of taste in, generations past, taste was cultural capital. Taste was what sets, the elite people apart from everybody else, right? So now we're living in a society where everybody's yelling and screaming about equality and this and that, and like AI is going to take over everyone's jobs. And then also you have all the tech bros wanting to have good taste now. It's fascinating. But if you're going to build scalable technology solutions, you're obviously always going to have the exceptions to the rule. The iPhone 5, great. I mean, I don't. I mean, how's your iPhone doing? I find mine to be kind of annoying. Like, there's 3 camera lenses. One's always dirty. There are plenty of things about this device that I don't like anymore. So this to me is like status quo now. This was innovative when it first came out. This is not innovative anymore. This is status quo. Nothing about this has changed really to improve my life.
Mm-hmm.
I started to hate it when they took away the button.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But like nobody's going to speak up because you're all, it's a cult favorite at that point. So no one's going to say anything. But the more scalable a product becomes, the less the taste is important because everything is getting diluted down at that point when you're getting feedback and input from the general population.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of taste, especially when we're talking in the context of software development or technology solutions, sometimes you have a conviction of where something needs to go. At least I do. And I consider it similar to when my husband and I are picking out art, right? They might be in the same genre of art I like, but I have a conviction towards one. I know like that's the one we're going to, put the investment into. And you can't, to me, it's always the most important when I can't put a word to why I have a conviction towards something. And maybe that's why I struggle sometimes using AI to sort through my ideas because I can't sometimes always even put words to my conviction or my gut instinct. Do you find that as you build technology solutions or design system architecture, which you do a lot of, right? You're designing people's tech stacks. Do you have conviction sometimes to go a certain way, even if it may not seem like the stereotypical way or the normal tech stack? I mean, do you ever have that experience in your work?
Yes and no. I mean, look, I've been doing this long enough. I'm not asking AI those types of questions. I mean,
Sure.
I'm using AI to help me research new solutions or innovative solutions or say, but I don't know that I'm using it to make those types of high level decisions. I might be asking it like, yeah,
I
I don't.
guess it's more of if you're building something with a client, right?
Mhm,
And a typical consultant would come in and go, okay, we're going to do A, B, and C.
mhm.
Do you ever have a moment where you go, we're actually going to do A, B, and D, right? Or you just have a gut leaning to go a different direction, right?
Oh,
Because we build a lot with clients who want to specifically grow with technology, right? So they
yeah,
want to be above their competitors. They want to be doing the newest thing. And
yeah,
so I think a lot of that does need that refinement and that gut instinct. Do you agree with
yeah.
that?
All the time, all the time. Sometimes when it comes to some of these technology implementations, I feel like I'm like that character in the Queen's Gambit. I could see the whole thing playing out over 5 to 10 years, and there's always a reason why I'm making a decision, and I'm 100% sure that I'm right. And rarely can I explain it, which is
Hmm.
not a good, right? It's like doing the math problems on the SATs and you can't show your work. Um, I will say AI has helped me with that because I can word vomit into ChatGPT why I don't think that something is going to work. And it can help me elegantly put that into a sentence that is difficult for me to sometimes do on my own. I think sometimes being like in the weeds and this like seeing the forest through the trees person, I have traditionally been a very good communicator. I majored in communication studies and ended up in this technology role. AI has helped me with that tremendously because I haven't always had the time to sit down and like write down all my thoughts on paper and refine them myself. It's really, really helped me in that capacity because then once I can get it boiled down to a sentence, I can, and it's not that I can't do that on my own. It's just that I can never find the time to truly sit down to be able to do that. So that's been very helpful. But I can give you an example of when that happened within the past year. We had a client, they're a fairly large company. They are on Salesforce. They run all of their core revenue generating business processes, sales and service processes through Salesforce. They formed a strategic partnerships team where they wanted to go out and like target new strategic, basically create new sales channels. So they were targeting companies to become sales channels. And that team also wanted to use Salesforce. And I said, do not put those people on this Salesforce org. Get them their own Salesforce org. Just buy another Salesforce org with 5 or 10 licenses, set up their entire process, and the output can be that when they sign one, it can either create a case in the other Salesforce org, or it can automatically create a new sales channel in the other Salesforce org. We can figure that out later, but there's no need to be trying to run these two very different sales and business development processes in the same Salesforce org. And everybody was like, oh, why would we do that? That's ridiculous. We're not going to support two Salesforce orgs. And I said, because you're going to hold them back. They're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to prioritize their requests. You're going to overcomplicate their process because you already have all this other stuff going on. Nobody listened to me. And now what? It's been a year and they're like, we don't want to be on Salesforce. So we're going to move to HubSpot. Why don't you want to be on Salesforce? Well, we can't get our requests prioritized. It's too complicated. It's too hard. It's too much for what we need. I mean, it would have been perfect for them if they had just
had a separate org.
Yeah.
Tech solutions, especially when you have solutions that so many different teams, so many different people are touching, there's a need to build an elegant tech solution. There is a need to build something, I mean, maybe this is a silly word to use, but a beautiful system that works, that is not overcomplicated and not over-engineered. And we know that's very difficult because we go into a lot of clients' orgs or systems that have been over-engineered by someone else, and we have to reduce and make it work and make it elegant. And so having that taste or that gut instinct is really important, even when you're doing something so analytical like the field we're in, or doing something technical like software development and using, codecs or AI or something to help with it, because that human element to build an elegant system is still needed. And I think that's where experience and taste and, a strong direction to take something really comes into play. You want something that fits that team, that is unique to them, that helps them operate. They need to have that personality, right? Their unique sales flows. You were just saying that one sales team needed something different than the other sales team. Do you think taste is something that could ever be coded in to an LLM? Do you think that is something you can train your models on? Or do you think that that's like a strictly inherently human element that will always be a human element?
It's funny, if we truly are living through a second Gilded Age, then this is the old money, new money argument, right? And I would argue that in the first Gilded Age, the new money argument, the new money like won out as like, right? I mean, look at what happened after that. Everything, do I think you could code it in? To an extent, I think you can. I mean, I think you can create agents with guardrails. And I don't remember if we talked about this on a previous episode, but I identify as a writer. I am rarely using AI to actually write anything for me. I type like 127 words a minute. I don't need that type of help. So I have an editor agent, and that editor has instructions that are, going on 5 pages long at this point, right? So I'm trying to train that editor to be reliable in a way where all they're doing is pointing out grammatical errors, potential places where people might get confused by what I'm trying to say, redundant words. But I've told that editor, I do not want you to change my writing style. It's taken me a lot of time to be able to do that, right? So like, not only do you have to refine your taste in real life, then you're also trying to delegate those rules, principles, whatever you want to call it, that you are incorporating into your own life. You have to take the time and energy to like incorporate those rules and principles into the tools that you're using. And so I think it depends what you want to do, right? I think that's a little bit also, we've talked a couple of times on this podcast now about how my partner Jeff has developed this foundational tech stack that our products are all built on the same tech stack. And if we were to go in and make changes to one, we would determine then should that change get pushed to all of them. And right, like that took 18 months to build. And so I think it's like the foundational information that you're giving to these models before you're using them to, what are you using them to do, right? If it's a marketing campaign, you're giving them the branding guidelines. If it's if it's a technology solution, you have to be specific about what you want the foundation of that product to be. Otherwise, you're going to go down this vibe coding path of like, you're going to end up with a really nice prototype that you can't scale or whatever else. And when it comes to writing, I think you could 100% you can use it as an editor without having it rewrite everything that you write. Like, I don't want it to rewrite all my writing. I took the effort to write something, like, do not rewrite it. Every once in a while I'll use it and I'll like turn on the talk mode while I'm on my dog walk and I'm like, hey, I have a team meeting coming up and like I want to make a slide deck and like here's everything that's a priority for me today. Like, I need to turn this into a slide deck. Can you help me? And like just make an outline. To me, that's more like using it almost like a personal assistant, where I would have delegated that but I never would have delegated that task to a personal assistant because I don't have one. So that's like a place where I could use help. And I think sometimes it's hard for humans to keep track of my thoughts. And so it can like take all my word vomit and turn it into an outline, and then I can proofread it, refine it. And, it's like I started it, it helped me, I got the final say, and then it went to the team.
But I would argue that is that mid-level, sometimes considered low-value work, right? And something important to consider, especially with some of the aggression of the anti-AI movement that we're also seeing in culture, is some work can be mediocre, right? Some work is just middle of the road. And I would say anyone who has ever sat at a desk and worked a 9 to 5 would agree with that statement. There's admin work that needs to be done, basic data entry, compliance frameworks that need to be written, even designing some of the most basic websites. I mean, I'm talking a landing page with like store hours, and here's where you find us. Some of this doesn't need this outpouring of like taste and curation of ideas and refinement, right? It is low value, middle of the road work. And when it's done accurately, the job is done, right? There doesn't need to be like a creative element or an elegant solution to it. Now I'd argue that, I mean, maybe not 80%, but I mean, it's fairly high. Probably 60% of corporate tasks are probably that mid-level. And then you have these really big items that need taste and refinement and personal thought and deep thinking. If, AI can support in those low value tasks, do you think that gap, so, say 40% of that is deep thinking or deep work, do you think that is the only human premium left? Meaning, is that where humans can really shine? Do you think we as a society are going to get lazy and even let the machine average out that as well? I mean, do you have any kind of perspective on allowing AI to do that low value work? Will it creep into the high value work? Do you think it's important to kind of hold that high value work as sacred? I don't want to say that because that seems like a really big word, right? But humans are designed to work. And so does that work need to stay close to humans?
I don't know the answer to that. I value consistency in the output of the work. I value organization. So I think when it comes to some of these mid-level tasks, the frustration I have right now is the outputs can be very inconsistent over time. And so I still think there's some human element that might not need to be so high level and strategic, where it can be, can you keep tweaking and working and guiding these models on the consistency of the outputs, right? You don't have to provide the high level strategic inputs of what you want, and you don't have to proofread, or QA what comes out, but like, I need you to make sure it's consistent. I think at least in the short term, like that remains a need. Again, I almost think that there's going to be this divergence where some of the consumers of the outputs of work are going to be more agents. And so the standards for the work where the outputs are being consumed by more, like where the work output is the input into more agents. I don't know how much input humans have to have on those quality of those outputs. I mean, somebody has to have some sort of like QA. Like, I don't know how you, that's a little like outside of the, I'm still trying to make sense in my head of how, what that looks like. But, you know, are humans going to be freed up to pursue more creative endeavors? Are humans going to be able to, like, are we all still going to be working like 40 to 60 hours a week? Or are we all going to be able to work 20 hours a week, but accomplish what used to take 360 hours worth of work to complete because we're orchestrating agents to do our work? Are we, those are still questions for me. I think a lot of people have settled into like, okay, I've adopted AI and this is how things are now.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg. So I don't think this podcast,
Yeah.
no one's going to enjoy listening to this podcast. They're going to be like, why did I tune into this so I could listen to Lisa Denoya say she doesn't know I'm not the fortune teller over and over.
But I think that's just the nature of where we're at right now,
Yeah.
right? Unless I'm an outlier here, which I don't think I am. I'm using AI fairly heavily, right? I have different agents. Some of my outputs that agents or AI is doing are inputs into other agents or workflows, right? Pretty much I would say a good half of our team has that working somewhere in their background on their laptop all day, every day. And that is not reducing my workload, right, to a 20 or 30 hour week. I'm just adding more into my week. I'm probably actually even more stressed than I was 2 or 3 years ago working in the same role. And I would love to get to a point where these new solutions are allowing us to have deeper work, or that work where that, taste, that curation can come out more. I think it's also going to depend on what end users want to consume, right? And I think taste also plays a part as an end user as well. I would say I'm fairly well versed in spotting AI slop, or going to a website and going, I don't want to order anything from this because this website was done with AI and it looks awful and these photos aren't real and that's not a real product photo, and so on and so forth. And so I think end users are going to dictate a bit of what the solution is as well. I'm a creative and I care deeply about that human touch. So I think end users are going to dictate where this goes as well, or, you know, um, where taste plays a role in things. I want to end with something that I read in Forbes just this morning at 3 a.m., because that's when people read articles. And it had suggested that the future belongs to curators, but they called the curators in this Forbes article cultural custodians. And I hated that term as soon as I read it. And I wanted to bring it up today because to me, a custodian is dealing with the past. It's sweeping up after an event is over, right? I don't like that term. And I think tastemakers or folks who are creating what I would consider, or they have good taste in whether it's tech or fashion or architecture, they don't curate the past. They might bring in elements of the past, but they are setting the future. They are setting what people want next. Are we just being custodians, curated custodians with recycled AI data? Or do we have a responsibility to aggressively break the rules to create 2.0, to create the next big thing? Like, do we think that AI is going to create the next big thing? Or do we think that's still going to be humans? Is that our responsibility to still do that?
I mean, listen, a couple weeks ago, I would have told you AI is never going to create the next big thing, but that was before I heard that first time in San Juan, me Iho on Instagram. So, because then I realized that was created by AI, and I was like, what is happening? That is catchy. You have to admit it. Never in a million years do I think I would listen to an AI generated song like 67 times, but I was in a bad mood the other day and I just put that on repeat and then I felt better. Um, no, I agree with you. I don't think a custodian is necessarily the right word for that. To me, that's more like, yeah, somebody that's, like guarding or like, safeguarding the past. Uh, I think a taste maker or a taste curator is somebody that is, offering a unique point of view, like filtering through noise and like showing you, what they believe to be the best of the best of whatever it is at that point in time. Um, and, you could say maybe that influencers have been tastemakers over the last 10, 15 years, 20 years. But that's gotten worse. Like, everything is eventually influenced by money and advertisers and corporations and all of these things. And so then it's like everything is getting diluted down to, what I'll call millennial gray. Like to me, millennial gray is just like when everything looks the same and everyone looks the same, right? It's like, millennial gray kitchens, Instagram face, everyone starts to look the same. And I think it's going to, and again, this is why this is interesting to me right now, because if taste is trendy right now, because it's trendy across the board, it's not just trendy in technology and AI. It's become trendy in this overconsumption movement, in this sustainability movement. If taste truly becomes trendy and every person wants to develop their own individual taste, finally, after all this time, then does this wave of influencers and everybody is like spending so much money on advertising and like addictive technology features and all of these things, because taste is the one thing that can insulate you from that type of influence. Taste is the one thing that can prevent you from succumbing to this desire to act on everything that you see. Because if you can refine your own individual taste and surround yourself with the things that you prefer, or as a company, if you can develop your own taste in technology as a company and build a solution that actually works for your individual company, then you shouldn't have to keep buying and tacking on more and more and more solutions. You'll still have to continuously evolve and improve, and you will. So I'm not saying it's like the end of capitalism or the end of consumption.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the end of overconsumption and over engineering and over, right? Like if everybody would take some time to slow down and think about what they really want,
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's developing taste. Like taste is not only what you want, it's what you don't want. And there is
Yes.
a lot of stuff out there right now. There is more and more and more things, noise in the world that we can all refine out and say, this is what we don't want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we do have that responsibility as humans to have discernment and to have taste in our lives and in our solutions, and in this context, in our technology solutions, and the discernment of knowing also what is wrong or what is the wrong approach or what we don't want for clients or for our own businesses is equally important, right? If you look at an LLM or AI up to this point, it's not creating something new. It is rearranging and recreating things it has already learned from, which means those things have already existed. And one of the largest pieces of data that LLMs have learned from, at least the accessible ones that most people are using right now, is Reddit. And so that is human beings who have put their own thoughts and opinions out into the world and blog posts, things like that. And so it is not an original thought, it's not an original idea. And that's often where you see taste come out the most, right? Is somebody might have wonderful taste and it might be very different than my taste, but I can tell they have great taste because there's discernment and original thought there. And I think that very same thing will apply with solutions. And I do think we'll have a responsibility to ensure that we aren't just falling to the trap of regurgitating somebody else's solutions or thoughts or architecture all the time. I think we'll have a responsibility to create new and to think new. And I hope this landscape, once it, it feels very rough right now. So once it evens out a bit, I hope it'll give us time as 9 to 5, as employees, as entrepreneurs, as tech startups, to have that time to create and curate that taste more, and to create and curate what are really good solutions, and that 2.0 solution. Well, thank you, Lisa, for having this conversation. I think we have a lot of building to continue to do and a lot of taste to refine for our own lives and our clients. But this was a great conversation to have today. We love to talk technology and business. Learn more about Port and Starboard or connect with us in the show notes. Fair winds until next time.